Good afternoon, learners. It's such a privilege for me to be part of your learning experience. I am Mrs. Louise van der Merwe, and it's just such a wonderful, wonderful time that I enjoy with pupils to be able to share lessons in English. So I'm really, really grateful to be with you in your classroom this afternoon. And I really hope that you also enjoy the experience as I am planning to do. Now this afternoon we are going to talk about visual literacy. It's such an important component of the English syllabus and grade 8 and 9 exams, there will be questions on visual literacy. Now I'm talking away, and of course it will not help if I don't show you something, because you know what visual means is what I see. And visual literacy is to be able to understand and also to write down what I see, because that's what visual means. Visual means what I see. But more on that as we go along. So as we move to my PowerPoint presentation, which tells you that today's lesson will be on visual literacy. And I'm going to touch on components that might be asked in an exam paper. Now, boys and girls, do you recognize this image? You know what? No matter which country you are in, whether it's South Africa, whether it be in Europe, whether it be in America, Australia, Eastern country, let me tell you, this image is an image that you will find all over the world. And it's an image that every single person on this earth understands. Now, when you look at this image, do you see any writing? No. It's only an image. So, where do you think we would find this image? Yes, you're right. We find this image in malls or in any building that would indicate to you that there is a restroom. Now this is such an important image, because when you really in a difficult situation and you need the toilet, you are definitely going to look out for this sign. Boys and girls, that is what visual literacy is. And from a young age, you are able to read this sign. And this tells you that there are restrooms available. There are no words at the bottom of this image. No. So, you know, whichever country you are, whether it is South Africa or whether it be Spain, if the words were written, you would not be able to know where the restrooms are in Spain. But when you see this image or this sign, it tells you that it's a restroom. Isn't that a wonderful example of reading an image? Very simple, but we all can read this image. Boys and girls, when you look at the image on the left, you know it's an apple. We all know that that is an apple. On the right is the wording apple. So, whether it's the image or whether it's the wording, we all understand that that is an apple. So we are able to read that that is an apple. Even though I would take away the wording, we would know that that is an apple. And that is being able to read what I see. Oh my word, early in this lesson, I'm going to shock you. I wonder how many of you has seen this image. Now this image was published in a newspaper, I think initially, and later on it has many museums you will find this image. It's a photograph. It's a photograph of a young girl in Sudan, a northern African country. You can all see that in the background there's a vulture. This is shocking. This is absolutely shocking, and it brings tears to my eyes. I don't know how you feel about this. But this is a well-known photograph by Kevin Carter. And let me tell you that there was so much reaction towards this photograph. Now, what I'm saying to you is the following. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Many people wrote in to this newspaper when it was initially published. After seeing this photograph, many people felt that this is unfair. This is shocking. We don't want to see this because it is so unnerving to have to see somebody in such a state, to see the poverty in these northern African countries. So no, don't publish this because this is unnerving. Other people looked at this and said, wow, is this what is going on in our country? Is this what is going on in our world? Let's do something about this. Believe it or not, some people sent in money. Now you see what it says. A picture is worth 1,000 words. Boys and girls, you don't have to give this photograph wording. It says so much. A picture is worth 1,000 words. We can write an essay of 1,000 words on this specific photograph. And many people have said so much about this photograph. What am I saying? I'm saying that without any words, we can read something in a photograph. We can agree, we can disagree. We can be appalled by what we see. Now, isn't that so as we watch television, social media, where people post videos on whatever matter, and you get so much reaction? That is to understand what you see and to give your opinion on what you see. Visual literacy is the ability to read, write, and respond and interpret visual images. Now, when you look at this, the wording, it's obviously on a road sign. Do you see in the background, it has an arrow. I think at the top it says drive through or something like that. And just the image that you see in front of you, just quickly, I want to refer to road signs. You know, you don't have to be literate. In other words, literate means to be able to read and write. You don't have to be literate to understand many road signs. And that is what visual literacy is, to be able to respond to a visual image. In other words, if the arrow shows left, oh my word, please don't go right. There's a reason for that. Okay? So you need to interpret an image to understand. Now, boys and girls, I've shown you a few photographs and images. And what is expected of you in grade 8 and 9 is the following. Firstly, you need to look at the image. When you receive your test or your exam paper, you will receive an image, whether it is a cartoon, whether it is a photograph, whether it is a pun, a photo of irony, advertisement, which I'm going to go into in depth this afternoon. You must observe. You must be able to see it. My friend, if you cannot see it, you won't be able to answer the questions. So the first thing you do is to observe. You look at the image in front of you and look at it carefully. Take time. Take your time and observe. Now, you need to understand what is going on. You need to understand what the photograph is about. What is going on in this photograph? Or does it just make no sense? I have no idea what's going on here. This comic strip is just like Greek to me. I have no idea. You need to understand what you see. Is it a boy? Is it a girl? Is it a cat? Is it a dog? Is it a mushroom or is it an umbrella? You need to understand what you see. It needs to make sense. if I go back to the photograph of the young girl in Sudan with the vulture behind her, does this make sense to you? Would you understand that this is a human being, that is a vulture, it's a bird, and that it is poverty? Does it make sense to you, or do you just have not the foggiest of what is going on in this image? Then you need to analyze. You need to decide what is happening here. The young girl in Sudan, vultures sitting behind her, if I had to analyze that, the first thing that would come to mind is poverty, drought. Would you be able to do that? Would you be able to come to a conclusion when you look at what you see? And then the last one is to interpret. And that's most probably the most difficult part, is to interpret what you see. Because you know what? This is what eventually is going to be expected from you. You need to put what you see in words. And maybe in class you will be expected to do an oral on a photograph. A teacher might give you a photograph and say to you, learner, I want you to tell me what you see. Tell me, I want you to analyze this photograph and interpret and tell me, where do you think this has happened? What do you think happened? Why is this person in this situation? And you might, in an oral situation, need to tell the teacher what you see or what you understand from what you see. Or, most importantly, and I think that is what is more important, is that you will be able to write down what you see. Because that's how we do it. We give you a picture or an image in a test or in an exam paper, and then you need to answer questions on that image. So it's very important that you will be able to put into words what you see. Many of the learners in my class, their first language or their home language is not English. And I think that's what's most challenging for learners. They know what the answer is. They know exactly. They understand. They interpret. But are they able to put what they see into words? Do they have the vocabulary? Do they have that ability to put into words and also to write, which can be really challenging? Now, boys and girls, the first visual image that I would like to refer to, and I have already, with the little girl in Sudan with the vulture behind her, that is a photograph. But the first one that I'd like to refer to are photographs. Now, it could be a copy of a photograph that you receive in a test or in an exam paper, or maybe a teacher just gives you a random photograph and says, listen, I need you to speak about what you see. Okay, so the first one is photographs. Now, I love talking about history and all kinds of interesting photographs, so here we go. The first one, look at that. That's a young boy. Now, you see what I'm doing. I am going to explain to you what I see. So maybe, wait, before I give you the answer, I think you need to turn to your friend sitting next to you, and I think you need to say in words what you see. So I'm giving you 2 minutes. Quickly turn to each other and see whether you can put into words exactly what you see. Just randomly start talking. Say, I see this and this and this, and he is doing that, and he has this in his hand, and this is the look on his face. So I presume this is what's happened, because then you interpret. Okay, 2 minutes. Quickly turn to your friend and tell him or her what you see. Right, I'd love to hear what you said to your friend. Let me tell you what I see. I see a young boy, and I see that he's holding his hands in the air in a victorious way. You know, fists up, showing that, you know, I've won something, but he has actually won something. He has a trophy in his right hand. So this young boy has achieved something. Behind him, it looks like maybe a poster that he created. So to interpret, I can tell you what I see. That's what I observe. What I understand is that this boy has won something. It makes complete sense to me. What I see, there's nothing strange about this photograph. To interpret is to understand that this boy has won something. So I would think that, just to summarize, that he has created a poster, and his poster was the best one of all the entries, and this young boy won first prize for his poster. Well, there we go. That is how one interprets and understands and puts into words what we see. I told you that I was going to shock you this afternoon. Here comes my second shock. I wonder how many of you have seen this photograph before. Let me tell you the story behind this photograph. This is Hector Peterson, the boy being carried in this young man's arms. Let me tell you the story. This was 1976, and it was in one of the uprising in the apartheid years in Soweto. And there was an uprising in Soweto, and the police came into the township, and trying to disperse these people, shots were fired. And Hector Peterson was shot, this boy lying in this man's arms. And he died in this unfortunate incident, and it happened on the 16th of June, 1976. Does that sound familiar to you? 16th of June? Yes, it's Youth Day. Now, boys and girls, if you ever wondered why the 16th of June is Youth Day, I've told you. It's the day that we commemorate Hector Peterson's death. Now, if you look at that photograph, oh my word, there are so many words in this photograph. I've now told you the history, and if you look at the girl who's running next to them, if you look at her facial expression, I mean, she's completely traumatized. She is overwhelmed by what is happening. And she is Hector's sister. Now, if I had to ask you to write a paragraph on that photograph, surely you would be able to. That's why it's so important, boys and girls, to have a general knowledge on what's happened in your country, what's happening in the world at this moment. I'm sure that many of us have much to say on the State of the Nation address last night. And it's important. You have to know what's going on. If you don't, you're going to miss out. You might just get this photograph in a test and you have no idea what it's about. But in that photograph, boys and girls, there is 1,000 words. The next one, puns. I hope your teacher has taught you puns. I've given you an image, and yes, there are words as well. It says sleeping pill, and then there's like a rugby ball shaped little man sleeping. Let me just recap. A pun is words that are used that have a double meaning. And when you answer this question, you need to give both the meanings of the words or what you see. So, there are two meanings to what you see. And many times, puns are not just in a sentence. Yes, you will find puns and be able to, you have to recognize them in a sentence form. But often I love giving my pupils an image, and they have to interpret what they see. And that is visual literacy, to be able to put into words what you see. Okay, I'm going to give you the answer, because then I have another one for you. Sleeping pill, it means something that you drink to help you to sleep better. It's a pill that you drink to help you sleep better, a sleeping pill. But the double meaning is the pill, do you see that it looks like a capsule? The pill is actually sleeping. So there we have the double meaning. And we call that a pun. A pun is a sentence or a word or an image that has a double meaning. First meaning is that it's a sleeping pill. You drink the pill to sleep better. The second one is that the pill is actually sleeping. I think it drank itself. I don't know how that happened. Anyway, another image. Do you know what those are? Oh, it's very important, boys and girls, that you must be able to identify. You need to observe, and then you need to understand. Quickly turn to your friend. Just tell your friend quickly, what are those figures? Yes, you're right. Of course, bullets. In this violence-stricken country, all of us should know that it's a bullet. Okay, so there are 3 bullets, and the big bullet looks like the mother because she has an apron on. You see, I'm able to interpret. Why do I say it's mother? Because she has an apron on. Now she asks, what happened to you? And the bullet on the right that has the briefcase in his hand says, I got fired. Would you be able to identify the double meaning? Okay. Let me give you the answer. Maybe you might just be confused. We are speaking about bullets, and the mother asks this bullet that looks like his head was chopped off, says, I got fired. Now the first, I got fired is the pun. And the 2 meanings of I got fired, firstly, he was fired by a gun, because that's normally what a bullet looks like that was fired by a gun. It loses its shape because it hit something, all right? So that's normally what a fired bullet looks like. That's the first meaning. What's the second meaning? The second meaning means, well, he has a briefcase in his hand, so obviously comes from work. He was fired at work. But you know what, boys and girls, if you are not able to understand what you see after you've observed, you will not be able to interpret. And that's what will be expected of you. I would ask this in a test or an exam. I'd give the image, and all I'd say to the girls or the boys would be, explain the pun in the following image. And you will be expected to understand what you see, to interpret and write that in words. Right, the third one is irony. I'd love to know whether you know what irony is, because that's what I would do if I were in your class. I would say, boys and girls, quickly put up your hand. Who knows what irony is? Now, irony, let me give you the image. You would, in other words, irony, let me just sum it up, is something that you see or hear that you would not have expected. In other words, if I asked you in this image, what is the irony in this image? In other words, the opposite happens to what you expect. For example, somebody who's overweight, big fat man, is selling a weight loss products. That's irony, because you would really not expect a fat person to sell way less goods. You would expect a beautifully built man or woman to sell those products because he has to set the example. Now, when you look at this image, it's a car, driving on a tarred road, and he approaches, or she approaches, a sign that has been painted on the tarred road that says school. Oh dear, have you noticed that school has been spelt incorrectly? Oh my word. So what is the irony? I think, you know what I think we should do? Let me give you 1 minute. Quickly turn to your friend, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to share with your friend. See if you two together can work out the answer and decide what is the irony in this image. I would love to listen to your answers. And surely there is somebody there who's a clever cookie who would be able to give the answer. Yes. You know why you go to school? Why are you in school? To learn to spell correctly. So do you expect a road sign which shows you that the school is nearby to be spelled incorrectly? No, you wouldn't. Because that's where you learn to spell correctly. So that is the irony. The irony is, in school, we are expected or taught to spell correctly. So one would not expect the sign that is closest to the school to be spelled incorrectly. Let me give you another example, and I love this one. Look at that. What do you see? And I know many of you started laughing. Yes, because it is quite funny. Yes, boys and girls, the newsreader looks like the suspect. And the chances are very good that it could be him. Oh my word, he might be the rapist. And I'm just wondering by myself, do you think he has seen the image? I wonder. So, what do you think the irony is? And this is exactly what I would ask my learners. I'd give them this image, and the question would be, explain the irony. What would you not expect? Boys and girls, one would not expect that the rapist suspect would look exactly like the newsreader. And in a way, it is actually quite funny. We all sit and we go, oh, no. We are shocked. This can't be possible, because one would not expect it. So what I see is an image that has taken my breath away. It's something that I've not expected. It is ironic. It is ironic that the newsreader looks exactly like the identikit of the rapist. Would you be able to write that in words? Well, you will be expected to do that. All right. Look what I have. Does anybody understand the wording? I don't. I have no idea which language it is. But I think I know what it says. Because if I look at the image, oh my word, it is a doctor, do you think? Of course. Why? Because of the clothes that he wears. Isn't that true? He looks exactly like a doctor. He has a face mask on. That's what doctors look like when they operate. But what does he have in his hand? He has a saw in his hand. Now, you believe me, I would start running as far as possible if I had to see this image in a hospital or in a doctor's room. I don't even have to understand the wording. because it says so much. It says so much. So yes, you know what? I would start running, and I'm sure you would too. Okay, now we've come to a very important part of visual literacy. And boys and girls, this is something that the chances are very good that you would be expected to answer questions on advertising. Advertising is such an important component because wherever you go, whether you walk down the street, whether you're on the internet, whether you watch television, radio is more audible, it's not that visual. In print, a newspaper, a billboard, magazines are full of advertising. And you know what? They would not be able to be published or to be to exist if it wasn't for advertising, because that's how they get their money. I hope you know that. That's people pay to have their advertisement put in the paper, and that's how they make their money. So, boys and girls, this is such an important part of the English language and something that you have to be able to cope with. And this is part of visual literacy. Now, let's start with the principles of successful advertising. And if you look at the screen, you'll see it says successful advertisers follow the following principles. Firstly, the advertisement needs to grab the attention of the buyer. When you look at this advertisement, you must want to look twice. And I'm going to show you an advertisement, an image that will, I promise you, you'll look twice, because I did. So that's the first step, is the advertiser, the one who creates the advertisement or draws it or puts it together, must grab the attention. It must be something that people will look at twice. Secondly, it must keep the interest of the consumer. You mustn't just look and then, oh, and turn away and something else draws your attention. It must sustain that interest. It has to be so interesting and colorful and big and something that would touch you and have such an effect on you that you keep on staying interested in this advertisement. Then the next principle is to create the desire to want it. You know, every time I look at a McDonald's burger advertisement, I have a desire. I just have to have one. And that's, if it's a good advertisement, I will want to go out and buy it, or I would want to respond. Because advertisements is not just always about buying something, it also has another aim. But we'll speak about that in a moment. And then the last principle is to actually take action. You actually stop smoking, because this advertisement shows a face that is burnt up. Now you decide, no thank you, no more smoking for me. So you respond. Or you are just so hungry and you actually smell that McDonald's burger. You know, you go out and you buy it. Then you know you have successfully advertised. Now, how are these principles created? How would I convince somebody to go out and actually buy what I'm advertising, or convince somebody to do, to take the advice that I advertised? Is it an eye-catching headline? Is it an eye-catching caption? For example, Kit Kat has a wonderful caption. We all know it. Take a break, take a Kit Kat. We all know it. So that's well done. It's a caption that we all know. Or is the design of such that it just catches your eye? Look at this. Isn't that awesome? I mean, really. I think they're advertising a zoo. I found this on the internet. And I just thought, you know, I looked at it and I looked again and I looked. And I thought, oh my word, what an eye-catching design. It's a snake wrapped around a bus. I think that is absolutely brilliant. Don't you think that too? It actually looks real. I admire the person that painted this. That is really, really eye-catching. Now, this is a question. The previous one, can I just go back? It could be a question in the test. How does what is it about the headline or the design that has caught the eye of the consumer? And you have to answer that question. You would say, as an answer, it is something that you would not expect. A huge snake wrapped around a bus. It actually looks real. It is something that you don't see often. That's how this advertiser has created the eye-catching image. Now, the next question could be, I'm coming back to this, slide. Who is the target audience? Who is the target consumer? And this could be a question set in the test or the exam. Who do you think is the target audience? For who was this advertisement created? Is it for young people, older people? Funeral policy would not have children maybe on it. It might just have older people, because older people tend to die easier. A stage of your life, or maybe for men or women. And I'm going to show you an example. In other words, gender, socio-economic. Is it for the really, really rich? Or is it for middle-class people? Or is it aimed at poor people? Jewelry, I would not think is for poor people, because, I mean, I can hardly buy jewelry. So it would be focused or targeted at richer people. Or a value system. Is it on safe cars or whatever? So you must be able to look at the advertisement and be able to answer a question like this. Who is the target audience? Now look at this example. I found this image, and it is three magazines, Sports Illustrated and a Black Enterprise and a GQ, I think. Now, who do you think would buy these magazines? Women? No. No, I think specifically, if we have to be specific, I think black men would buy these magazines. And I'm sure that the contents of these magazines would be issues on men or concerning men, like men's products. And the one on the right, GQ, is on health, how to build your muscles. This is definitely not focused on children, on women, on older people, or this is basically created, these magazines, for black men. So that is the target audience. Middle-aged or whatever, if we have to be very specific, middle-aged black men. Which needs or emotions are being evoked? Self-esteem, in other words, something that would make you feel good about yourself. Sense of belonging, like being part of a family. Health, to be fit, physical or financial security. Now, look at this example. Oh, that's really sexy, eh? The pupils in my class all go, oh, ooh, you know, they respond in that way. Now, this is definitely for, I think it's perfume. Young ladies is the target audience, and I'm telling you that they would love to look like this girl. They would love to have what this girl has. So self-esteem is very strong here. To feel good about myself because my body is beautiful. Sense of belonging, to have a handsome boyfriend. So what the advertiser is saying, if you use this perfume, you will feel good about yourself because you are pretty, and you'll have a handsome man because you smell nice. What is the intention of the advertisement? Is it to interest, to inform, to persuade, to educate, to stimulate, or to promote? And boys and girls, I've told you that not all advertisements are there to sell a product. Am I correct? Sometimes it's to inform or just to make a statement. But now, what do you think this one is? Sorry, I just want to add, how has this been achieved? In other words, if I talk about an advertisement that would educate, how does the advertiser do it? Emotive, in other words, emotional. Persuasive, is it creative? Does it look good? Is there reasoning? Is it facts or opinions? Is there humor or shock tactics? Look at this. It reads, I'm twice as likely not to graduate high school because you had me as a teen. And then it says, kids of teen moms are twice as likely not to graduate than kids whose moms were over age 22. Now, in my opinion, this is shock tactics, because that is quite moving. And they've given a fact here, and they've given statistics. They say kids of teen moms are twice as likely not to graduate than kids whose moms were over the age of 22. And this advertisement is purely to educate. They're not selling anything. They are educating. They are telling you that you have to be careful not to get pregnant when you're a teenager, because your child is going to suffer. So this is not to sell anything. It is to educate, and it's to inform. And how have they done this? Look at this poor boy's face. Or it could be a girl. She's distressed. She's crying because she has a lesser chance in life than another child, which is not necessarily true. But that's what they're trying to say. We've got to be careful of teen pregnancy and the effect that it has, not just on society, but on the children. Okay, the last one. I have 10 minutes. Cartoons. Now, I love asking cartoons and I love asking comic strips. And the questions that one could ask are just so many. So I love asking cartoons or comic strips, and I love Zapiro. Now, when you look at this cartoon, which was drawn by Zapiro, who's one of the most famous cartoonists in the world, but definitely in South Africa, but he gets into trouble because he makes fun of people and important people. Okay, now observe. What do you see? Have you noticed who's lying in bed? Or do you have no idea? Come on, boys and girls. We all know this icon. Yes, it's Nelson Mandela. And we loved him dearly, and we still love him for who he is and what he stood for. He has made such an impact on everybody's lives. Okay, so what do you see? I would say I see a bed. I see a man lying in the bed, and he looks pretty sick. I can ask you, why do you think he's sick? Then I see a figure. Now, have you noticed that that is the outlines of our country? It is South Africa. It's like a map of South Africa. All right? And this South Africa, can I call him South Africa, is sitting on a chair, and he's holding Nelson Mandela's hand. All right? So I've just said in words what I see. I see also their facial expressions. Could I ask you that? Can I ask you? Describe South Africa's facial expression. Would you be able to do that? So I would ask you too, what emotion do you think South Africa is feeling? Now, Nelson Mandela is saying, I know it's hard, but we have to start letting go. Now, after you've observed what you see, do you understand? Do you understand this cartoon? Are you able to make sense out of it? Now I'm asking you to analyze. All right? And I'm asking you to interpret and to tell me what is happening in this cartoon. Would you be able to do that? You know what I think? I think I'm going to give you another minute. Just quickly turn to your friend and tell your friend what is going on in this cartoon. Please interpret this cartoon, and after you've made sense of it, interpret and analyze. Okay, you have 2 minutes. Right, boys and girls, I'd love to hear your answers, but unfortunately we can't do it that way. Yes. Let me interpret this cartoon for you. Nelson Mandela is on his deathbed. And Nelson Mandela has to say goodbye to South Africa. And he admits that it's hard, but seeing that he knows that his life is passing, he wants to say goodbye to South Africa. And he says, I know it's hard, but we have to start letting go. And that is his way of greeting the country that he loves so much. So that could be a question. I could also ask you to describe their facial expressions. I could ask you why Nelson Mandela is greeting South Africa. I could ask you, how do you know that he's sick? There are so many questions. The most important is that you understand what you see and to be able to give that in words. Oh, I love this one. Oh, I love this. Right. Let me tell you what I see and move through this with me. There are three gentlemen in this cartoon. Again, it's Zapiro. I love him. And it says at the top how they chose the new Bafana coach. Okay. The gentleman right at the back, he has a clipboard and it says SAFA Search Committee. Then we have a gentleman who's holding a hat, upside down hat, and small ballot papers or just small voting papers in the hat. And then we have the gentleman in the front who is turned and he has his back to the hat, and he says, "Eeny, meeny." I hope you know what that means. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. And then you guess. You surely must know that. And now, this is what I see. I understand this cartoon. I hope you do that as well. Now I want to interpret. And my interpretation of this cartoon is SAFA, which I know I am interpreting, that SAFA stands for South African Football Association Search Committee. In other words, they are looking for a new coach for Bafana. But it is so crazy that they are taking, like, they're dipping into a hat and they're just randomly taking out a name. And what this cartoon is about is they are making fun of the way that the Bafana coach is selected and chosen, which maybe isn't too kind, but isn't it maybe true? So, and at the bottom it says, this is a classic rerun. Okay. What do you think that means? Yes, I'm sure that many of you are going, ah, because that's what my learners say. When I speak about little hearts or if I show them a heart. And today at school, everybody was hysterical because there were red hearts and pink hearts and teddy bears and roses and you name it. And girls were sent gifts and girls sent boys gifts. I know, you all are just so focused on love. Yes, love. When you see a heart, it says so much. I mean, you don't have to read what it says. It just says so much. A heart is love. And the one on the right, the red one, looks like a box of chocolates to me. And if anybody gave me a box of chocolates with a heart on it, it would just warm my heart. Because I just know that this person has given me this box of chocolates because they love me. And you know what? I haven't even, there's no writing on this slide. But all of you know we're talking about, yep, and what's happening tomorrow? It's Valentine's Day. Have you been in the shops lately? There are no signs, but just to look at what's happening, to look at all the, as I say, the teddy bears and the roses and the chocolates, we know it's Valentine's Day. And we understand that it's Valentine's Day. We don't have to have any signs up with writing that says Valentine's Day. So I have come to the end of my lesson, and I would really, really, really like to wish you a wonderful Valentine's Day tomorrow. And you know what? To receive something, we need to give first. So I'm not saying that yes, I do hope that you receive something special, but you know what? Go out there and give something special. And you know what? Valentine's Day is not just about love between a boy and a girl. It's not just about romantic love. It's about being kind and loving and understanding and forgiving towards all people. All people. So find the closest person when you walk out the classroom now for a short break and give them a hug. And tonight, if you are lucky enough to have a mother and a father, give them each a hug and thank them for everything that they do for you. So may you have a fantastic Valentine's Day. My husband and I are planning something really, really romantic. So I'm really looking forward to it. So this is the end of my lesson on visual literacy. So I'm thanking you.